Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Communications from Home right here at Star Nation's live stream shows. And I am coming to you from Star Nation's main fan page here at Facebook. And I would like to also welcome those that are joining me through YouTube. Did you guys know that we can simulcast now? Yeah, to Facebook and to YouTube. So, hi, everybody. So glad you could be here with me this evening. It is Tuesday, September 1st. And so, happy September 1st day. Here we are, Didn't the summer go by really, really quickly? I thought so. And I know we're still in summer until what, the 20, is it the 22nd or the 21st? And so, welcome everyone. You know what this show is about tonight is all about change. Change. And for those of you that might not know me, I'm Yvette Neshi Lokotz, and I'm the host of Communications from Home, but I'm also the steward of Star Nations organization. And I am so happy to be with you guys tonight. It feels like it's been a really long time since the last time we had a nice conversation, a spiritual conversation, right? Yeah. So, um, the show tonight is about change and being the change. Um, Last week, when I was getting prepared for the show, we actually prep about a week ahead, and I was doing the prep work for the shows for this week. And so I got to my shows, and I was talking to my spiritual teams, and I was asking, so what are we talking about next week? What's important for us to have a conversation about? And it was very clear it was about change. And they gave me a quote from Gandhi that I just love since like junior high, about being the change that you wish to see in the world, right? And at that time in junior high, I just thought it was just a really positive way of looking at things, right? Little did I know way back then that we really create what we see out in the outer world from the inside. And so being the change, right? So, how many people in the chat, live chat, have experienced change since January 2020? Almost everybody has, right? In one form or another. It has been a very um, radical year so far, don't you think? I don't know. Radical. That's a word. I got to take my jacket off. It's warm here. I'm up at Star Nations Academy. This is where I do a lot of my shows from, and so we talk about change. It was a quick change. I was teaching this past weekend, and I had broken down the studio. And I'm just kind of dawdling down at the house, talking to mom, talking to Paul. I thought, I suppose I should probably go up to the academy. And I realized, oh my God, I need to set up the studio again. So Paul helped me, and it was a quick change to get everything back into place, changing it from a classroom back into the studio. And I was telling Paul, I said, so the show tonight's all about change. And he said it kind of reminds him of the Superman, how Superman goes into a phone booth. Do you remember those phone booths? Some of you may not. And does that really quick change. And I said, yeah, that's what it kind of feels like, doesn't it? To be able to do that fast turnaround. So, Rob, let's see who's in the house before we get rolling too far down the road. Hey, Rochelle, good to have you here. Good to have you here. Greetings from, is that from Facebook land or YouTube land? It's a slow mover. Oh, it's YouTube. YouTube land. Oh, good. Thank you, Rochelle. Thank you so much. It's a great reminder, isn't it? Thank you so much for reminding me. And before we go too far, too far down the road, I just thank you, Rochelle, because I needed that prompt. I almost forgot. I promised a few people that I would send them a messenger message when I do live streams. and I completely forgot about it. So I'm going to take just a moment to do that. I'm going to maybe invite you to do the same thing. Whoops, wrong one. To do the same thing. If you know someone that likes to have spiritual conversations, to send the live stream to them. Um, if you have somebody in your life that's going through change, going through possible changes, you might want to send them the link too, right? All right. So I promised a few people, Carol and Lisa, Barbara, and whoops, I'm going to send it to Bonnie too. And Violet is the one who, oops, got to spell right. I promised that I would. Well, that's not coming up. I wonder why not. Rats. Is anybody else friends with Violet Colby? You can send it over to her. I'd appreciate it.
I'll send it to her.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, thanks for that. Um, yeah, this change thing. Talk about synchronicities. They're everywhere anyway, right? But lately, I would say at least a couple of months, lots of synchronicities about change. And for me, those kinds of changes is meant to slow me down a bit, right? To really kind of take in the possibilities and ask my team for clarity. What does this mean? And what's the best possible direction that we can go in now? Right. And sometimes I get a pause button from my spiritual team that's saying, we need to just kind of sit back and kind of take a look at the terrain, take a look at the landscaping of the possible change. I don't know about you guys, but I've got some big ones coming up. One I know for sure, because it involves Paul, my husband. Just before his surgery in July, he had mentioned to me that he was thinking about maybe retiring, and and it was a conversation. And then, not even a week later, he tells me that he's going to be retiring. And I said, I thought we were just talking about it. He said, no. He said, I'm serious. He said, especially after he was home recovering from his surgery for, 4 weeks. He was actually off from work total, probably about 6 weeks. And he said that he realized that um, he really wants to have a different kind of life, and he wants to be able to be home and to be different. And so that's what he's going to do, which means things change around my house. The flow, what gets done when and by who and how long, the whole thing, right? And so we know that that one's coming up. He's going to be working through, I think he said November, and then he'll be done. So we know that's a big change, and you're kind of preparing for it. So who else is doing that? A lot of my friends were right around similar ages, and so I was thinking, geez, that must mean there's other people that's in our age group that might be looking at it or thinking about it, and maybe even moving into it. So many of us began working at a very young age that we really, we've already put in 25, 30, 35, 40 years of work. I started working when I was 13. And, I was thinking about that. It's like, wow. But I don't look at retirement. I don't know about you guys, but retirement to me isn't about, um, that's the end, right? I look at it, I don't even particularly use that word, but it's a big shift. It's where you put your energy. And as I was thinking about that, I was also thinking about how we, um, connect or understand change. There's many of us who um, don't take change very well, right? We try. Our life doesn't change all that much. There's some people who they're very high anxiety when there's change afoot. And actually, George is kind of like that. My puppy, my furry boy. Golden retrievers are very much they like routine, and anything out of the routine, anything out of place, they kind of I was going to say freak out, but they notice it like that, and it puts them into a place of anxiety until you kind of work with them a bit, and it doesn't change again. It becomes something normal to them. So if you're one of those people who find change uncomfortable, I can bet you guys are not feeling very comfortable in the last few months, right? Um, so let's talk about that a bit and things that we can do to make change a little bit more comfortable, because we are energy, right? We're spirit, and we're in these physical bodies. And one thing I know for sure is that energy is constantly moving, constantly changing. There's no way to stop it. It does slow down, it does speed up, but there's no stopping it. It's constantly flowing and constantly changing. And so when we turn to that, because that's what we are, is energy, um, is that we are changing all the time. Sometimes it's so subtle that you don't even notice it. Sometimes it is pretty evident and kind of knocks us off our balance, right? Yeah. And so change is always happening, always happening. So if you're a person who finds change difficult, how can you deal with that? Right? How can you deal with that? It kind of reminds me a bit about those that don't like thunderstorms. It's similar. It's similar. It's a similar feeling. And so, what do you do to calm yourself? Right? Self-soothing. That's hard to say. Self-soothing. And how do we soothe ourselves when change is afoot? When change is happening? I'll tell you one thing that I know helps me is being grounded. And Rochelle shared that, right, Rochelle? Being grounded is so helpful, so very helpful. Being centered and being protected. To do that meditation twice a day, sometimes more than that, depending on what's going on in your life. And so when you're uncomfortable with change, that's one way that you can really help yourself. And for me, sometimes music helps too. It doesn't have to be peaceful, calming, um, spa like music. It doesn't have to be that way at all. It just is something that makes me happy. And a lot of times it's rock and roll. A lot of times it's power music, right? So for me, lots of times music helps. Music helps. Hey, Rob, I see that there's lots of people making comments. Let's get caught up with everybody. Hello. Oh, this is Julie Hedges. Hello, Julie. Good to have you here, lady. I hope you're feeling better. Have made small changes. Yeah, sometimes those small changes are easier, aren't they? Than having something get plopped right in front of you, and there's this huge change. That for some people they say it was out of the blue. It took me by surprise, right? Yeah. Sometimes when we take a look at it and we do a 2020, um, kind of thing, 2020 vision, right? That if we slow down and we take a look at it, sometimes we can see that we were getting nudged months ahead of that. And for whatever reason, we would ignore it, right? Look past it. Or maybe it was so subtle, we totally missed it. Mm. So you're right, Rochelle. Making small changes sometimes is much easier, much easier. So thank you for that. Hey, Clara's here. Hello. Hello to you, lady. Good to have you here. Looked like you had a really good supper. I saw your post on Facebook. It looked really good. It was actually kind of a idea for me for supper. We ended up with sauteed vegetables, bell peppers and onions and that sort of thing, and lobster cakes. It was good. It was good. So thank you for the inspiration, Clara, for supper. Hey, hello, Karen. Good to have you here. Good evening. It's always good to have you in the house. I like that Morjicon too. Looks like it's a fairy. And Rochelle says, yesterday I walked outside and I felt the change in the air. The smell was different, the whole atmosphere. It was enlightening. It's good for you, Rochelle, for seeing that. And I have to say that their fall, autumn certainly has started, hasn't it? Here where I live, it has been cool. I think the high we had today was 71 and the low was like 46. I know, that's cold. And so, yeah, definitely you can feel the shift in the season. That's for sure. But there's other things that are also shifting and changing that we're feeling, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. So, thank you, Rochelle. Yep. Rob says it's not okay. It's never okay. They say change will be okay, but it never is. Sheldon Cooper. Yeah, he's one. His character is one of those people who find change very difficult, right? Anxiety filled. Hmm. Yeah. And Karen says, in the last week, the old phrase "hindsight is 2020" has been popping in my thoughts. It means what would we do differently if we knew the outcome? It's given me so much to ponder this week. Change is an inevitable part of life, and it can be and can affect be affected by our intentions. My personal life has been going through big change this week. Yes, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that with us, Karen. Um, this this thing about change feels feels more intense for me anyway than any other time I've been through change. And it's not like um it's not so huge like we're moving or anything like that because that's a huge change. But it feels intense. The energy around it feels intense, doesn't it? So thank you for sharing that, Karen. And Karen, if you wouldn't mind, and also Rochelle and Clara, others that are in the chat, what do you do for yourself to help to self-soothe, to help you through the change so it doesn't feel so much anxiety around it or fear around it or just that uncomfortableness, right? So if you could share that, that would really be helpful, especially in the conversation. But maybe someone else is looking for a way, and we can help them out a bit. Okay. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the change. Share a little bit about the medicine wheel. Okay. The medicine wheel, when we're experiencing the energetic template of the medicine wheel, and where does change help us on the medicine wheel? The changes occur in the crosswinds. So if you're looking at the wheel from above, right, and the cardinal directions, the crosswinds happen in the northeast, northwest, southeast, northeast, northwest. Did I say that? in the cross quarters. Okay, the Celts call it cross quarters, the crosswinds. Um, that is where change, the energy around change happens. And so when we're looking at the cardinal directions, we'll start at the east, right? And so what is that? Let's see, January, February, March. So that is May, no, April in the east. And in the north, it would be January. Okay. So January, February and March are in the cross quarters or the crosswinds. Now, if you notice, that's where the equinoxes are. That's where the solstices are, right? And so the energy builds for the change and we can feel it. And some people say that the crosswinds on the medicine wheel is an uncomfortableness to it, restlessness to it, mixed emotions around it, right? Some people have the feeling of anxiety or fear. Others have this excitement and elation. And it's like, this is very adventuresome, right? Yeah. But we can feel the energy of those crosswinds as we build to either the equinox or to the solstice. And once we're past that, then the energy starts to wane as we head to the next cardinal point, right? Yeah. And those crosswinds, they go right through the center. And so if you are feeling uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, the best place to go is to the center of the wheel because that's where the creator resides. That is the center is where you would say that's the tiny space of the heart. You could say that's the void. That's where spirit resides, is right in the center. And it's a place for respite. It's a very calm, it's a calm place. And so that's where you can go. And what happens to us in the medicine wheel is that we're with it all the time. It's just not when we're physically in the wheel, but we're in it all the time energetically. And so, how do you head to the center of the wheel energetically? You do a meditation, you get quiet, right? You take a break, like I did this afternoon. You take a break and you get quiet, even if it's just for a moment. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful to someone to help explain through the medicine wheel what it feels like to be in change. Now, the title of the show is Being the Change. Being the Change. That means that we're not resisting. We're not resisting the change. Whenever we resist anything, it makes it more difficult to get through. When we dig our heels in and we say, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not going there. Every time we do that, we make it more difficult on ourselves. And then sometimes we end up blaming our spiritual team. They said I had to do this and I wasn't going to do it. And I gave them what for, right? Yeah. It's not like I haven't done that. That was my 2017. But as soon as I realized that I was the one that was causing it to be the most difficult, I released a whole lot, and especially what I thought, I'm going to put it in air quotes, control was, and got into the flow and got into the center of the medicine wheel, right? Because sometimes we think that our whatever is changing, we resist it because we think that our life we don't want to do it. We don't want to go there. In reality is that it's a time for soul growth. It's time for growth, period. Evolution, right? Yeah. All right. So let's go back to the comments and get caught up again. All right. Karen said, oh, we got that one. Thanks, Karen. Pat says, how does trauma and PTSD locked in the body affect change? Oh my gosh, what a good question, Pat. So good. Actually, when we're going through change, anything can be brought to the surface. So if it's brought to the surface, we're so much better off turning our attention to it. Even though it could be the panic, it could be that intense fear, it could be hate or jealousy, any of those lower vibrational experiences or feelings. Because when we don't attend to them, they're going to come back. and usually in a bigger form, right? So when they come to the surface, that is spirit telling us that we're ready to heal it. We're ready to heal it. We have everything that we need to heal whatever that is, right? So if it's trauma or PTSD, and you haven't dealt with it yet, it's time. It's time to get some help. Whether it is an energy worker or if it is a therapist, um, that there's help out there for you. It's when we resist it that it becomes even more debilitating. And once you do the healing, of course, it's in layers, right? Because you have to go through all four bodies um, in order to have a complete healing. But if it's there in front of you, that's your cue. That's your cue that you have everything it takes to heal that. Okay. That's a great question. Thanks for asking that, Pat. Yeah, got to reach out for some help. Hey, Violet, it's good to have you here, lady. Yeah, that's that change. Violet said something about change in the earlier live stream I did in my personal page. I can't remember what that was, Violet. I know you gave me some good hints about sciatica. I know. I've been working on that. It's getting better. So yeah, thank you for that, Violet. All right. So do we have another one? I use medical cannabis. Okay. Well, if it works, it's legal in Michigan. It's not legal here in Wisconsin. No. No. Clara says, thanks. Just wanted to inspire a meal for friends. I lay in bed and give thanks for shelter, nourishment, and clothing. After that, I ask God to send his angel to hold and provide comfort for me. Then close my eyes and feeling the comfort of the angels and meditate for a while. Well, good. Thank you for sharing that, Clara. Um, and basically, we're saying the same thing. We're saying the same thing because the Creator, God, um, that's our respite. That's a place to go to for the calmness, right? Even though the change may have knocked you off balance, there's a place to go for respite. Yeah. Thanks for that, Clara. Um, I think this is Julie. Does creation emanate from the center? Or is that you, Rob? Does
That's
creation emanate? That's you? Okay. Yes, it does. Short answer. It's a big one, though. So Karen said, I reached out to my group who are in the medicine wheel with me. Today they felt heavy and asking for support was necessary, not always easy for me to do. I grounded outside during the rain as well. I've taken time facing my fears. Oh, good for you. Good for you. Because there's one thing that we know for sure, Karen, right? Is that when we face our greatest fears, any fears, on the other side of that is our desires, what we want in our life, right? Yeah. And I used to think way back when, decades ago, that, that was just a lot of rhetoric. That was just a lot of words until I actually experienced it and realized that there's a lot of wisdom behind those words that when you face your fears, especially your greatest fears, your desires are on the other side. Because so many times, the fear that we have, sometimes we make it much bigger in our minds than what's really there, right? And so when we face them, we're also facing our desires and having to say, yes, I do want that. That's what I've been asking for. That's what I've been wanting, right? Yeah. And wrapped up on all of that is a life lesson. It's a life lesson that is, it's got that wisdom in there. Once we learn the life lesson, and we integrate, right? And then we start applying what we just learned. It's in the application. It's in the application where we get our experience. And that experience means that we're honing that and we're mastering it so that when we are ready, we can start sharing it with others. And that's called our wisdom. That's called our wisdom. Yeah. Yeah. Um, there was something else I was going to share with you guys about change. Oh, okay. So when we're in change, in that movement, and this is where it came from this weekend. Yeah, I shared with you that I was teaching this weekend. I had a private student, and it's somebody who came to me in 2008, and I was doing feng shui certification, space clearing certification courses back then, and she was one of my students for feng shui. And she is going through some life changes, and she wanted to um, get a refresher on feng shui. And so we spent the weekend immersed in feng shui. And so we're talking about qi. Okay, qi is prana, universal energy, and how it flows. It flows through our home, it flows through our lives, and it's in constant flow. Um, and that we, as spirit, are sensing it all the time. Many times we can feel the change before it even starts to happen. Okay. But as a two legged, sometimes it takes us a little longer to say, oh, yeah, okay, I guess it is change. I've been kind of dreading it, not allowing it to happen, but here it is, right? So our homes and our bodies are constantly shifting to accommodate chi, that flow. And the thing is that we have all kinds of other things in our lives that are also out there that we're constantly trying to shift and accommodate so that this physical body isn't is as comfortable as it can be. Okay, so our spirit bodies are constantly working and adjusting. So when we're going through change, many times it's our etheric bodies, our spirit bodies, which means that it's our emotional, our spiritual body, our mental bodies, right, are already adjusting, shifting, so that our physical body is as comfortable as possible. Now, when we ignore that, or when we try to control it, that's when we start having some problems. you know here's the rule of thumb is that if our physical body is feeling some distress over it, that means that that distress has been around for a while before it actually reaches the physical body, because it's our other bodies that are shifting and accommodating, trying to help us to be comfortable in that change. So when we go to the center of the wheel, when we do, as Clara said, when she does her prayers and her meditation, okay, when we go to that place of respite, we're helping. We're helping ourselves to help our physical body to be more comfortable and to weather the change, right? Does that make sense? Um, Yeah, and Janet and I had a good long talk about that, about the change. So change happens in all the forms, in all of our bodies. It happens in the physical way, it happens in the mental and the emotional and the spiritual, right? It happens in all our bodies. Yeah. And so when we resist, we're making it that much harder on ourselves. Oh my goodness. We can't blame somebody else for it, right? We could try, but that doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. Yeah. You're welcome, Pat. You're welcome. And Julie says, good point on the shifting of bodies. Yes. And in fact, Julie, raised a good point in her last show in August, right? When she was talking to us about, wasn't Mars? You talked about Mars in that show. Um, in fact, in fact, Rob, is it possible to put the link to Julie's last show in the comments? Because I had a couple people asking me if I could talk a little bit about the astrology that's kind of out there affecting us and all the changes that's happening there with Mars going retrograde, right? And we have the full moon in Pisces, is it? And there's so many astrological things that are going on in 2020 that is certainly affecting us and change. And so I know that Julie had covered that a bit. So, and also you can catch Julie's articles in Star Nations magazine every month. Every month she's sharing something about the changes that astrologically that have been happening and helping us to understand it. Okay, so all of her articles talk about that. Yeah, and so Julie is our Star Nations expert on that. I'm not going to pretend I'm. Astrology is not one of my allies. I turn to. Thank you for that, Rob. There you go. Um, I turn to the experts with that. Um, I don't know about you, but I could never keep all that astrology information correctly in my head so that I can actually explain it to somebody. So I always turn to the experts. Now, when we're talking about medicine wheel or numerology or something like that, then yep, I'm there. I'm right there, but not with the astrology stuff. So, Julie had talked about it last in August in her last show, and so we listed both. It looks like YouTube. There's two different shows, or is it the same? No, it's the same show. Okay, it's just showing up twice. All right, good. Because that, let me tell you, listening to the information about that Mars retrograde, there's change. There's change. And we get to spend some time in how do we want to change? What do we want to change? The goals that we want. And there's a lot of energy around it because Mars is a very high energy planet. Um, when you think of Mars and I lost the name. Oh, sure. See, I'm just proving what I just said about astrology, because I can't remember the name of it. Name of the god, male god, Aries. That's it, Aries, warrior. Right? There's a lot of warrior energy, a lot of big energy with it, and so yeah, there we go. Yay! Now, being the change means to me that we're not resisting, that we're in the flow, and that we are the creators, co-creating, right? Co-creating and allowing energy to flow where it needs to go. Yeah, where it needs to go. Now, I know easier said than done, right? Easier said than done. Because sometimes what happens is that um, we think it takes us by surprise and it's like, what just happened, really? And like I said, it's been around for a while. We just decided not to look at it, decided that we don't want to pay attention to that. The nudges maybe were so subtle that we're so busy that we miss them, right? Yeah. And it happens to everybody. No one is exempt from it. No one. Not Star Nations, not me. No, not my husband, nobody. Not even Georgie. Not even Georgie. Yeah, because where he get his food from and all his treats and toys and everything, one of his most favorite treats is on back order. Yep. Even Georgie has to deal with change. And so nobody is exempt. It depends on how our mental attitude is around it. There's one. How much we can call on spirit to help us, right? Yeah. And how our emotional body is, right? How are we grounded? Because if we turn away from our emotions are the energy in motion. So it's okay. It's okay to feel every single emotion in a healthy way. Every single one of them. Even the ones that we deem negative, like jealousy, anger, fear, panic, right? And just like it's okay to feel intense happiness and joy, love, excitement, exhilaration, right? It's okay. It's okay. It's when we choose not to, when we turn away from it, when we push it down, when we suppress it, we're taking that energy and we're condensing it, right? We're pushing it down. And we can only do that so long until it comes out. And sometimes it comes out in not so healthy ways, right? So we're really, really better off expressing those emotions as energy in motion. So just even to acknowledge, geez, I am angry, or I am upset, or yeah, my feelings are hurt, right? Yeah. And it's okay to acknowledge it. And then ask the bigger question, what is this all about? And who are you asking? You're asking your spiritual team. It's like, holy smokes, what was that? What was that all about? Asking for clarity. And what am I supposed to learn from this? Right? Yeah. And sometimes it takes us a little while to adjust to it and say, okay, all right, I got that done out of my system. Now what? Now which direction do I go in? Right? Because I'll tell you, I'll share something with you. Is being the steward of Star Nations organization it's a big ship. It's a big ship. It's a lot of energy. And so when there's change happening within it's not like we can change something on a dime. It takes me a while to make that change, that curve, right? Um, and sometimes I need time to feel the emotions around it and then sit down and say, okay, how are we going to do this? What does this mean? How does that look? You know, because we've had some changes here that you guys don't even know about yet. We have. Yeah. All this was happening while Paul was going through recovery and mom was doing her grief, and she still is over her sister. And there was a lot going on all at one time. And so we have some changes coming up in Star Nations, but I had to actually kind of, all right, I acknowledged it, I saw it, I heard it, I read it, and I turned to my spiritual team and said, okay, it's come to the surface, so I'm acknowledging it, but I'm stretched so thin. I'm going to put that right here. And if you can tell me some more about it in meditation or through cards or something, but I just didn't have enough time or energy to do anything about it during that time. And what I learned from that is that there were some things that just needed to simmer. Simmer. That's a good one. I like that. Because when we put something on simmer, that just means that it's take really blending all of the spices and everything that you put together, and it's creating that flavor, right, that we're looking for. And that's what I learned. I learned that last month and this month. And, we're only in the first day. And so that's why the show was titled Being the Change. Being the Change. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be anxiety filled. It doesn't have to be dramatic or traumatic. It's just, acknowledging your emotions, energy in motion, allowing it to flow rather than trying to block it or to restrain it, to control it, is to let it flow. And how can you nurture yourself? How can you self soothe? Right? Yeah. All right. So Deanna says change is the only guarantee we have in this life. Yes, that is so true, isn't it, Deanna? It is so true. And so, how do you take it in? Right? One of my friends said to me once, this was a long time ago, because Paul and I have moved a lot because of his career. We have owned like 9 different homes and lived in like, I don't know, 15 different places, and we've been together for 40 years. Okay, so she says, "How do you do that?" Because she is still in our hometown. She's never moved from the first home that they ever bought, has never moved. She's been in that home for, I don't know, 40, 50 years, 45 years, something like that. And she says, I don't understand. She goes, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. And I said, well, I see it as an adventure. Every single time it's like, oh, yay, next adventure. So some of it has to do with our mental mind. How do we see it? How do we and how do we approach it? Right? And sometimes we need to give ourselves an attitude change. Yeah. Sometimes I have to take myself out and give myself an attitude change. It's like, what are you doing? Let's consider this a little bit, okay? Are you sure you really want to do that? There's consequences to every decision, positive and negative. And so, it's like, are you sure you really want to do that one? Yeah. Let's wait and let's see if we can get a little bit better positive attitude. That's what I usually tell myself, right? So, that positive mental attitude. Do you remember that back in the 80s? Those of us that are old enough, PMA, positive mental attitude. Dale Carnegie. Rob says green leaves of summer turn red in the fall. To brown and yellow they fade, but then they have to die, trapped within the circle time parade of changes. Phil Ox. That is a great lyric. Like that. Yeah. And that's what the medicine wheel teaches us about the seasons, right? Because it's in those crosswinds that we have the change of the seasons. And everywhere experiences it. Some more dramatic than others, right? When you live in the northern climate, northern part of the United States and Canada, for sure, that's what I know about anyway, is that we have dramatic seasonal changes, don't we? Fall, gorgeous, right? When winter's here, that's for sure. When spring is here and summer gets hot and humid, right? Now there's other places that the seasons are a little bit more subtle. They're still there. They're still there, but they don't have the dramatic changes that we might see in the northern part of the United States. But they still have them. It's still changing. It's still changing. So it's constant, guaranteed, right? As Deanna said, guaranteed. Okay, so what else do we have there, Rob? He says that in addition, or maybe that's Julie, in addition to watching the stars, I also pay close attention to the Schumann resonance. Yeah, that's another big one. Now I want to clarify something because there's two numbers that come out of the Schumann resonance, right? There is the resonance itself, and that goes up to 40 hertz, megahertz. And that's how high the scale goes. Doesn't go past 40. There's another one that's an amplitude, and that can go over 100, right? So whenever you hear the Schumann wave was at 137 or 165 or something like that, it's high, yes, yes, but that's the amplitude. The Schumann wave, when it hits like in the 30s, like upper 30s, that's big, 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 big. hmm So that's just a little, a little definition, clarification of the Schumann resonance. And it's an earth energy. It's an earth energy. It comes from Grandmother Earth. And we live within it. We live within it. It shifts and changes us all the time. Um, and we have to have it. In order for us to survive, we have to be in the Schumann wave, Schumann resonance. Yeah. Have you ever felt jet lag or ever worked in a building that was deemed a sick building? Yeah. Jet lag just means that you've been outside of the Schumann wave, the resonance, for a period of time. And if you've ever worked in a sick building, you know what that's like. I'm thinking about some of the government buildings down in Madison. Two of them were deemed as a sick building. And you're fatigued all the time, right? Yeah. When the astronauts went up on the space stations, those early ones, and they would come back, they were not healthy at all. A lot of mental illness in those early astronauts because they were outside the Schumann resonance, the Schumann wave. And so that NASA and those other kinds of governmental um, aeronautic offices, departments, scientists had to come up with a way that they were going to replicate the Schumann resonance so that humans that are up on those space stations can be up there for months at a time without debilitating side effects like death, right? Yeah, Schumann wave. So it really is a good one to watch. That's for sure. Okay, next. The Thunder Beans are visiting here. Really? Good for you. Yay for you. We had them here earlier this morning. We had two big storms go through earlier this morning. We've had a lot of rain. And I mean, I'm trying to remember what day that was. It was like 8 inches all together. Started raining one in the evening and it went till the next day. We had 8 inches of rain, lots of flooding, a lot of farmers' fields underwater. Um, there's one house that was literally taken off its foundations. Talk about shocking change, right? Oh my God, that poor family. There a hill behind their house. It was literally a mudslide, and it took out their house off the foundation. Yeah, talk about change. That's a big one. Yeah. All right. So Rochelle says, I'm resonating to all your wise words. Well, thank you. When I recognize my feelings, be it physical or emotional, I can deal with it much better. Yes. Yes. And the more often we do that, the easier it becomes. Why? Is because we're getting experience with it, right? Just like, some of us are experts in stuffing and suppressing our emotions. We've spent a good part of our life doing it, and we got really good at it, right? Until we start experiencing ulcers, migraine headaches, right? And other things. Um, yeah. So good for you, Rochelle. That is really good. So that you recognize it, right? And the thing is that's all we really have to do. It's like, okay, I see you. Yep, I recognize it. So why am I so angry right now? Right? Why am I feeling sorry for myself? What's really going on here? And if you're an empath, asking if it's yours, is what I'm feeling right now, is it mine? Is it mine? Because chances are it's not. And so then you can start learning about discerning what's yours and what someone else's so that you can release someone else's and then you can start dealing with your own, right? Expressing your own emotions. Yeah. We've talked about that a lot here, haven't we? About emotions and the expression of them in a healthy way. Yeah. Lots of shows on that. Thank you, Rochelle, for sharing that. All right. So I'm looking at the time. Oh my goodness, we're at the top of the hour. So the biggest tip that we can share tonight is that number one, don't suppress or repress your emotions. Is to feel them in a healthy way, to acknowledge them, because emotions, when we do that, our emotions are telling us that energy moving, is moving. There's movement to it. And so don't block it. Allow it to flow in a healthy way, right? A little feng shui. All right. And the other one is that when and if you feel uncomfortable with the change, because you're the one who's changing, you being the change, right? Is to head to the center of the medicine wheel, your center, heading to the creator. No matter what you call that energy, whether it's God, goddess, creator, the great mystery, whatever it is for you, is to head in that direction so you can sit with that energy, that love, and to be in that calmness, to do a meditation, go for a walk, right? Just to be quiet for a few minutes and to breathe and to breathe it. Yeah. Though, I mean, it sounds simple, doesn't it? It sounds simple. Most of us aren't doing it. And let me tell you, here we are in the beginning of September. 2020 has been a volatile year, hasn't it? Volatile, radical changes. And most of us have weathered it. Most of us have. It's not done yet. It's not done yet. There's some more changes coming up for us in this last part of the year. And so, and we've been talking about it here at Star Nation since December of 2018. Are you grounded? Are you centered? Are you protected? Right? And it's going to help us. It's going to help you to be able to be in that calmer place, or at least to know how to get there. Right? Can't say it's going to be 100% and you're going to be, like smooth sailing, right? Yeah. You just won't have the big highs and lows. It'll be a little bit more stable for you. Yeah. Okay. So, Rob, can we have the last couple of there we go. Karen says, "Thank you, Neshi, for this timely topic. Very helpful and interesting." Well, I'm so glad you were here and adding to the conversation, Karen. I appreciate it. And yeah, so we can have conversations like this, right? And to be helpful to each other, to be able to support each other. There it is, to support each other. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so we're at the top of the hour. I wanted to say thank you to all of you for being here with me this evening for Communications from Home. Um, we're working on lots of things here, as usual, per usual. Right now, I'm working on Star Nations Magazine, the September issue. I think you guys are going to be liking this one, like you don't like any of the others, right? And I know I'm partial. So I'm working on that. Orchard's book is out, and we're in the promotions of that one. And lots of good stuff going on, a lot of busyness, that's for sure. And we're also looking at the live stream shows for this week. We have other ones available that's coming up for you. We have Angel Therapy on Thursday, that's a live show. We have the Spiritual Roundtable coming up for you on Wednesday afternoon. The Angel Therapy is 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. I'm going to get my notes out because I don't remember. All right, here we go. Angel Therapy is all about Archangel Raphael, the healer. And then chakra sessions, we have another replay for you because Polly Joe's still on vacation. We're doing a replay called Rebuilding Your Energy Foundation. I thought that might be a good way, a good tool, a good reminder for all of us. Talk about weathering change, right? I think that's a good one, a good show to replay. So thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you, Rob, for producing. Appreciate it. And thank you those that were joined us by YouTube. I'm so glad you're here and you shared and you're here. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you back here next week for Communications from Home. Bama Mina, that's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. Love you guys.